The recording. So, hi, my name is Cindy Mattingly, and today we're talking about the higher self. So I'm going to do a screen share. And there you go. So for you guys who are new to the Magic Monday, I do a screen share, but then when we're done with the talk for today, I will send this to you right after the talk. So you just take notes and I'll leave it up. And if you miss something or you need something, just let me know. So the first paragraph there is straight off my website. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to read this so that we're all on the same page, because the topic, the higher self, is a big topic. There's so much that you can say about it. I'm not saying that there's a lot of reference material. So, and we'll have our discussion around that. So I think of the higher self as a vibrational state of being. It's separate from our day-to-day self and our basic human desires. In my practice, work on vibrational states and realization of the higher self go hand in hand. When we work on raising our vibration, I believe we're cultivating our higher self, and vice versa. In this workshop, we're going to share techniques to help you purify your energy, increase your awareness so that you can connect with your higher self. So the first thing that I'm going to define so that we're all on the same page is this idea of a state of being. So I've put down the definition. It's a quality, and I should say, and or a vibration of an experience. So if I said to you, do you know what the word happy means? Most people have had an experience of what that feels like. And what you're feeling is the vibration of happy, because we know we're happy versus sad. And all of this is that quality of the vibration, and it gets familiar. Have you ever had that state where you're like, I just feel confused. I don't know if I feel up or down or left or right. I just know I feel confused. And then someone talks with you, or suddenly you go, I know what it is. And the confusion, that state of being moves, and you have this clarity about what this experience you're having in your body is. So that's a state of being. We change states of being all the time. Happy, sad, angry, bad, sleepy, tired, whatever. Those are all emotional states that are a certain vibration. But we're going to be talking about states of being more, so that we all have this common language. So the next word that I like to just make sure we're all on the same is this word self. So the topic today is the higher self. So if you break it down and you say, okay, higher self, what's that? Well, the actual, if you go in and use your Google and you find a definition, one of the many ones, it will say it's a peace or an enlightened perception. And the way you might recognize it either within yourself or someone else is that there can be total chaos going on, and this person's state of being is the higher vibration of that higher self, and so they stay peaceful and they go about helping with the chaos, whatever it is. Their state of being doesn't change. That they also maintain that peace, this perception, even when they're happy, things are going well. They stay the same in that vibrational perspective, in that state of being. And then if you're looking at the lower self, and not lower is not like worse or negative. Lower is the earth part of us, this 3D part of us. And this is more like your personality and your identity. So personality, I'm talking about your opinions, your preferences, your belief systems, the things that make each one of us an individual and unique. Right before everybody got here, we were chit-chatting a little bit, and I was sharing that Caitlin and I, who's the person that I co-teach with yesterday, or co-taught yesterday with, she's just got this really beautiful, steady, balanced, more quiet. And I tend to be the one that goes, you know, boom, I have more directive energy. And so we have two different states of being, but both of them are part of our personality. Then when you go to identity, that's when you say to someone, tell me about you. And the person says, oh, if you said, I said, oh, okay, I can tell you about me. I'm a teacher. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I own cats. So I'm using all these identities, these labels on myself to give me more of something that's tangible. Because if I said, oh, I'm my higher self, you know, no one's going to know what to do with that. So those are just very generalized definitions of state of being and self, those two types, lower and higher. And then you can even think of for yourself, are you aware of your states of being and how many you have? Because you have them all the time. And have you ever had a period of time where you felt in that more peaceful perspective and nothing, no matter what was going on, what somebody said, you didn't change your state of being. You still felt peaceful inside. So those, and there's a great little story where it talks about a farmer, and he gets it's a Buddhist like parable, but he's a farmer, and a horse, they find a horse. His son finds this horse, and everyone in the village tells him he's lucky. And he goes, oh, we'll see. And then, you know, the son's trying to break the horse so he can ride it, and he breaks his leg. And the village, you know, people tell him that he's unlucky. And he goes, oh, we'll see. And then, you know, his son's broken leg, and now they're calling all the firstborn children to war, and his son can't go because his leg's broken. And so they say, oh, aren't you lucky? And he says, we'll see. So you see how his state of being stayed the same no matter what the experience was. And that's what you're looking for in the higher self. So I'm just going to stop the share for just a moment, see if there's any questions before I go into more. Yeah, you could just, we've got a small group, Gail, so you could.
Thank you. Yeah, with the higher self, you said about developing your higher self, and my concept about the higher self is a part of me that doesn't need developing because it's got the enlightened perspective. And what I needed to do was develop more of a connection with my higher self.
Right. So that's one of the things that I find in all of our new age spirituality is that these words get used and kind of morph, and they all mean the same thing. So my idea of developing isn't necessarily, it's more about awareness.
Okay.
You
Okay.
expand your lens, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, I've been doing it that way. Or, wow, I spend a lot of time in my lower self. You know, you just develop the awareness, and that's one of the techniques. It's just the more you're aware, because a person who's hanging out at that vibration of their higher self, they don't really talk about that. They don't talk about their internal peace. They don't talk about it. Whereas a person who's in their lower self, what do? We complain, right? Oh, it's a hard day. It's hot. It's cold. It's this, it's that. It's a, because this is what our society supports. This is the way we interact with people. It's, you know, so it's just as you become more aware of it, then you notice, oh, this family member, it's easy for me to talk to because I can talk about these more, you know, peace, perspective, and holding steady, and, you know, cultivation, awareness, all these like wonderful words. But then I have these friends who want to just complain about politics or whatever it is, right? And so it's the more you're sitting in that place of just awareness, the easier it is for you to have the awareness around, oh, so I am sitting in this higher vibration. So that was a good question. Anybody else, or do you want?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
There's a European psychologist, and I can't pronounce his name, but he wrote the book Flow.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Is it? So when you're in flow, is that part of your higher self?
Not necessarily. So flow itself, I would consider that a state of being, but you could also have flow at all these other states of being. So you could be at your higher self. When it's more of an internal awareness
Okay.
where you find yourself feeling more at peace is the best word I find, but you may find another word. You may feel joy, you may feel other measures, other qualities, but you're looking for that place where you hold steady in this higher vibrational state and that you see things from that perspective. So flow, yes, but it's not necessarily just that.
Okay.
I'm going to share two different awarenesses as far as like a practice and a references. They are things that I've used over my years, and I use them with my clients so that people who are wanting to cultivate that higher vibe, then they can be more mindful of what are they actually cultivating. Like when I sit in my practice of meditation, what am I actually doing? Okay, I'm wanting to quiet my mind. All right. But what is there, you know, am I wanting to improve that vibrational quality, my state of being, so that I may be of better service? What am I trying to do? And so the more awareness I bring to a meditation practice, and we're going to do a meditation in our time today, and it's primarily about paying attention and then thinking, well, you know, that salesperson, I kind of lost my cool with them. So losing my cool meant I wasn't in a higher state, right? I dropped down into that more personality, identity. You can't talk to me this way, you know? And the best way to increase your awareness is your own admissions to yourself. The more truth you give to yourself, the more awareness you have. So does that help a little bit, Millie?
Yes. Because
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what that higher vibration feels like.
Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully maybe after we do some of these techniques, you might have something to use to reference it. So I'll go back to the screen share. So the first thing that I have here is it's an awareness of, if you've never read this book, Power versus Force, it's by Dr. David Hawkins. You can see my book has been used a lot. He basically introduces this idea, and in the book it has a scale, a map of consciousness. And I did not include in the, you can go online, you can Google Power versus Force scale and an image, and you can print off. There are like tons of them.
Wow.
Now, because it's not my material, I can't really share it, but you can go into Google and print it off and keep it for yourself. So the idea of his whole premise, this is a 20-year study. The book is, I think it's probably 20 years old. So you're talking older. It was published in 1995. So that gives you kind of an idea. It's been around, but his idea was that the word power is an effortless and it goes unseen, but it can only be recognized by inner awareness. And so the items that are on his scale is he gives a level and then he gives a number. So the ones that are in the power section of his scale, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. So that just kind of gives you an idea of power. The person who's at peace or enlightened, they don't say a lot unless you invite them to do so. The Dalai Lama, he may not be enlightened, but he's definitely the peaceful person. He's definitely a joyful person. He's always smiling. And so if you used joy, for instance, it's 540 is the number that Dr. Hawkins gave it. Peace is at 600, enlightenment goes up to 1,000. And this is all just a scale. It's not based on 1,000 particles or any of that sort. But the thing that I felt was really good is that so the title's Power versus Force. Force is experienced through the senses. So again, you're back to your lower self, the more earth-based. And so some of the levels there are pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. So shame is the lowest vibration and enlightenment is the highest. And the reason I included this is that I feel like my thoughts are, since there's not a lot of literature, if you will, specifically like books written on the higher self, things of that sort, then if your power is more of it being recognized by an inner awareness, well, do you know when you feel joyful? I mean, I just thought that to me felt like an awareness kind of thing that was more towards the higher self concept, and that the lower self concept, because force is about the senses, the pride, the anger, the desire, the fear. These are the things that make all this staying in quarantine and the restrictions and things of that sort make it a challenging time, because it keeps us in that lower self vibration. Your personality, if you're a warrior, your identity of, oh, I go out and teach, whatever that identity is, you get a chance to think about those two. And then what his scale does, which will be very helpful, is he also puts an emotion and a life view in there. So I'm going to stop that for a moment, see if there's any questions about that, because of course I'm taking an entire book and research project and I put it down in about, 10 words, right? Any comments, questions, thoughts about that? Makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense the way you're presenting it. And it's interesting because I've done work in this area with, one of my teachers with functional biochemistry with kinesiology has developed stuff in this area. And one of the things he developed a lot on the scale of consciousness, and a lot of testing of this, that, and the other. And one of the things he developed was the gifts that you come in with, and a way of testing. And there are 23 gifts and a way of testing, and it's done on the same scale. So if you've got the gift, it's 1,000, right? So for instance, I know I haven't got administration. but then the good thing is then it's like, okay, you've got these gifts of the 23, you've got this many. How many are you, and to what extent are you putting them into practice? And that would be also on the scale of 1 to 1,000. And then the next step is, what are the blocks?
Yes. Well, and the more awareness you have on any of that, then you cultivate that actual consciousness. And so that moves you up into a different vibrational state. So yes.
It's interesting. I mean, I've just been looking at it, and I did it for somebody recently. I thought I really have to get back to this stuff.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I have other scales I use with clients, but these were the ones that I have two. I have this one, and then I'm going to share the next one. And this one is more of a modality, if you will. So it's called the Melchizedek method. It is an energy body of work. And in that model or paradigm, they say that there are 33 bodies. And so we can take the word bodies and change it to selves or dimensions or vibrations, but that's one of their concepts. But the key piece here is they actually label it levels 1 through 8. So these vibratory levels, there are 8 levels. They're for the lower body or lower self. And it's the earth element, which all makes sense. And then level 13 is the higher self. They actually mark it on the scale. So it's a real pretty scale. You can kind of see it if the sun's not shining on it too bad. But it's, it's got lots of colors and all this stuff. But the idea again is that this particular body of work is actually for cultivating your awareness around your higher energy systems or awareness or consciousness. And there are multiple ones out there. This is just one of them. So I'm just going to stop and see if anybody else has any other experience of other energy works that they're aware of. That you would think, oh, okay, that would cultivate my awareness and it would assist me with raising my vibration, raising my awareness.
I would say, Cindy, am I on the right path if I say, like, I feel like Reiki
Bingo.
cultivates, yeah.
Yeah. Because what does it do? What are these energy bodies of work do for us, right? They clear and they make space, right? And they make space for what? For us to be able to move and have more space in our awareness, in our energy field to be conscious and aware and attentive to how much chatter is going on in my mind. Are my emotions stable? You know, you ask these questions. These are some of my like reflective questions. I'll sit in meditation. And of course, most of them make me laugh because of course, you know, you go, yeah, I'm not really stable. No, did it? And I have to do more work. Go back to the mat, you know, and constantly am reflecting on those and thinking about that. And so Reiki's one of them, because that's another. Magnified healing is another one. And so you start looking at what is going to help me to clear my energy and something I can easily practice, right? That's the key. Because if it's not simple, most of us have a difficult time doing it, right? We got busy lives, or we think we have busy lives, right? We find ways to distract ourselves, you know? So it's a really interesting way of looking at the building the awareness so that you can examine this idea of a higher self where you feel more stable. It's inside. It's really not about the outside.
A heart math would work with it.
That's a really great one too, because it really creates that awareness. That's a really good one. Yeah. Anybody else have any other experiences with other bodies of work? Applied kinesiology, that's really great. That's another one. You know, so for instance, myself and Caitlin, we teach about dowsing. And dowsing is really very powerful in cultivating your awareness around what is true.
Yeah.
So it's not what I want, because that's what? Lower self. It's not what I think is right, lower self. It's just what is true. And so then that's when you move it into that higher vibe where you go, well, I don't like it, personality, but, you know, the quarantine is the quarantine. I'm accepting. And so acceptance is one of the criteria that they use on acceptance is a 350. So you can imagine if a person's feeling shame, 20, and then you go up to 350 and you're like, you know what? Life is okay. I'm going to be accepting. Now, are you accepting out here? Because out here is lower self, right? Inside, have you accepted? Are you at peace? Are you willing to try to do that? Do you have the courage? These are all those higher self qualities. To admit, I am in the Ho'oponopono certification program. And one of the things that he says there, Dr. Lin, he brought it to the United States from Hawaii, but he says you have to be 100% responsible. Now, I didn't say fault. I didn't say blame, because those are lower selves. You have to take 100% responsibility with yourself. And that's a big concept, right? It's like, ooh, I like it better when I can go, well, he did, she did, they said, right? Lower self. So the more awareness you have around these thoughts that go through or the emotions, I tend to laugh at myself a lot because, you know, I'm like, oh, that's really grown up, Cindy, you know, that kind of thing, right? Because we're none of us pure. We're all these, you know, millions of particles that make us up. And we just keep cleansing and cleansing and cultivating the vibe of us and trying to improve ourself or evolve. And that's all about the higher self. So any questions around that? Because if you feel ready, then I would like to do a guided meditation with you. Do the last bit. Because the last piece talks about the technique of meditation. And I'm listing two things under that. The first one is 10 minutes. Just Insight Timer is an app that you can put on your phone. You can set a timer and you can say, okay, I'm giving myself 10 minutes. Mine, I use a bowl, you know, so that it sounds like this. Right? So it starts and I have mine set for 15 minutes. And so that's first thing of the meditation, to connect with this higher self or the higher vibration. You want to do it daily, because that's the best way to cultivate this connection, this awareness. And this exercise or this meditation is about just noticing your breath. So you don't have to do anything. I mean, don't get any simpler, does it? But you know, you want to commit to it, and we're going to do it now. I'll set my timer. And in that process, so the second piece, our second technique, is you can have a prayer, an affirmation, a chanting, anything. When I was Googling in preparation for this, I was looking for specific, like, higher self prayers, things of that sort. And there were a million. YouTube was just full of meditations and prayers and affirmations, but I only found one that was meaningful to me. So that's the one I'll read once we've done our meditation. But you can do just the affirmation, and then you could sit in contemplation, you could sit and journal, you could do your 10 minutes in any creative way you want to. But those are basically I'm giving you 4 techniques to cultivate that higher self. 2 of them are about awareness. And then these last 2 are meditation, and then using either prayer or affirmations to access that vibration. Because prayer, the vibration of words, is very clearing. So any questions about that before we start?
So what you're actually saying, you're not saying, right, we're going to always sit for 10 minutes focusing on our breath, watching our breath.
It's an option.
Giving different options according to what. Okay.
Yeah, it's really important to give yourself choices, and so you don't feel trapped.
Okay.
Because what's trapped feels like lower self, right? So what you want to say is, okay, well, today, and see, I would say, douse it, right? I would say, okay, why don't you do the 10-minute? And so I douse every morning. I'm like, okay, am I doing chanting today? Am I doing meditation of guided imagery? Am I doing just a quiet one where I follow my breath? Which one is most beneficial for me today? So you want to, and I have like a stack of prayer books. And so sometimes I just open up a prayer book and I read that. And then I take that into my 10-minute meditation. I'm pretty creative with meditation. So, because you know, you can easily get bored. So what's bored? It's a state of being, and it's a little tricky, isn't it? You go, I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. And is that really what you want to do? Do you want to cultivate this higher awareness, this clearer mind, and the more peaceful inner world? Most people do. But if we think I mean, this is Deepak Chopra. I quote him a lot. If enlightenment was easy to do, there'd be a lot of enlightened people running around on the planet, and there's not. But there is, I think, a lot of people that are trying. And that's really the best thing we can do, right? As humans. So, all right. So I'm going to invite all of you to sit back. You can close your eyes. And I am going to do some coaching through our 10 minutes, but really I'm not going to talk much. So just take a couple of nice breaths, right? So just place your awareness on your breath. You can notice where it leaves your nose, or you can notice where it comes in. But just notice the breath. You can notice it coming into your lungs. You can notice it leaving your lungs. But just noticing your breath. Just allowing yourself to breathe in and breathe out. You can notice the thoughts that show up. You don't have to push them away. You just notice them. And then bring your attention back to your breath. To that point that feels right for you. And just notice. Nothing to do. So I'm going to add a affirmation, a little prayer in, and you just continue. You can listen and just notice your breath or listen to the words. I am life of God direction. Blaze thy light of truth in me. Focus here all God's perfection. From all discord, set me free. Make and keep me anchored ever in the justice of thy plan. I am the presence of perfection, living the life of God in man. So just bringing your attention still on your breath. Whatever point feels the best, you can change it around. There are no rules. I'm just inviting you to let go of the imagery of your breath and just breathing in and out, not paying attention, just allowing, noticing your chair that you're sitting in and how it supports you, feeling your feet on the floor. And if your feet aren't on the floor, then just being aware of your bottom sitting in contact with the chair. Coming back to our time together. And what I would invite you to do is if there was anything meaningful that came during that meditation, take a moment and write that down. Maybe part of your journaling would include how you felt before and how do you feel now? What is your state of being? Is your mind quieter? Just notice those changes. So I don't want to rush everybody. Is everybody at a, okay. Now, is there any questions or comments or clarifications that I can offer?
Cindy, I recognize the prayer, isn't it? That like from Claire Prophet's or her husband's prayer. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I know I had them. I don't know what they are now.
Right.
You know.
They do a lot of writing on the I am,
Mm,
the concept of I am.
mm.
And so that also goes along with the Melchizedek method. And they talk a lot about the I am, the ascension. These are all the words that are tossed around in that area. Yeah, that's good. Wow, you mean I explained it so good nobody has any questions or comments even? This is one of those where I'm like, what?
I do feel much calmer, and I realized that yesterday I was doing a job on myself and making me myself lower.
We do that, you know.
Yeah,
We're good at it.
yeah, right.
We take our state of being, which could be neutral of some sort or another, and we work ourselves up in a frenzy, but actually we're not working ourselves up.
Yeah.
We're lowering our vibration, and that's where the agitation comes from. We're such good humans, right? Yeah.
I think
I have,
Cindy,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Jane. No, go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment that I think also because the timing of this moment is where I take a break in my workday to be with you. And I feel so good after this meditation, but the challenge is being productive in certain work environments while maintaining a higher vibration. And I don't know.
Well,
if,
the goal of
Mm.
all of any kind of practice, right, is to embody the vibration of the higher self. So we talk about, you hear this word ascension, right? Everybody's talking about this, but actually the true thing is we want to descend our higher self in us. So we bring heaven to earth.
Mhm.
And the more we have that awareness, we notice it's inside. It's not about outside, it's inside. And so that radiates out. And then you do bring it into work. But it is, right? This world of ours is very challenging.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
But the key piece is it doesn't matter what's going on out there. The inside of you is the place that you're working. So when you bring that vibrational state of, we'll just use the word peace, since that's when you bring that and embody it, it does change things. People pick up on your vibe,
Yeah.
you know, and that's all great. But the key piece is that you pick up on your vibe. And, because we're human and because of this dimension that we're in, this very sensory provoking dimension, right? It is challenging, but the more awareness you have, you get to make a choice. And so, yeah, it is challenging, but that may be the lesson. Yeah.
So Cindy, I was going to ask, a while or last week or at some point in time, we talked about like clairvoyance and all of those sensory, you get these messages that come in. Is that like when they come in, are they coming into your higher self?
So using intuition means you have to be receptive. So you could have receptivity at the lowest part of your heart, and that's all fine. The key piece is that you're holding steady with, oh, that's an inspiration. There's the intuitive inspiration. And now what am I going to do with it? Well, technically, you don't have to do anything. You just follow the energy, right?
Yeah.
If you're in your higher self. That inspiration, that intuitive hit, the clairaudience, all those things sound, beautiful and fancy and lovely. But the key piece is what do you do with it? Your perception of it, your awareness of it, and then what this is a gift. Just like you were saying, Gail, you come in with these gifts. Okay, what are you going to do with it? And that piece is where you determine if you have this gift and you choose to do nothing with it, that's a lower self decision, right? But if you choose to take this gift and it's going to make life a little bit more challenging, then you're choosing it though, because it's of service. It's for the betterment of the world, whatever your higher self is, or you're doing it for love, to be of service, to help healing, to cultivate awareness. This is part of the reason I do Magic Mondays. I just want to help people. And, many of us have barriers, right? We have excuses, we have reasons, we have all these things, but I wanted to take all that away and just be able to say, okay, it's always going to be on a Magic Monday, right? That's easy. It's always going to be at 3:00 and it's going to be no cost. All you have to do is show up. And so those are the kinds of things, I think about when I'm trying to be in that higher vibration, is how can I be of service? So, and that's what you might be, some of it I might get, prodded with the intuition pieces that show up, but it all comes together because it's all a state of being, right? It's like, okay, I get this clairaudient information. Now what am I going to do with it? And here's the gift, like Gail was saying, that's the key.
Yeah.
How you use this gift that came in. So, a good question. Yeah. How's everybody doing? Okay. So I think we're getting close to our time, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.